What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper, and I wanted to do a video on how often you should practice with your firearms to maintain proficiency with them. So, I'm going to talk about my recommendations and what I do. In my opinion, for me personally, I like to practice at least once a month. I like to go to the range at least once a month, and I'm fortunate enough to live in an area that has a lot of shooting ranges and a lot of places where I can shoot, and I take full advantage of that. I have a long distance range very close to where I live. I have many places to shoot, so I take advantage of that, and I try to shoot at least once a month. And I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of my videos. Many times I shoot more than once a month. Sometimes I shoot every weekend, depending on what I'm doing and my responsibilities and things like that, if I have free time or not. But I try to shoot as much as I can. I'm one of those types of people that believes that sometimes the more you do something, the better it is. And there is also, though, a law of, the law of diminishing returns, and I'm going to talk about that. But I think that for your main defensive weapons that you plan to use to defend yourself, whether it's for home invasion, for concealed carry, or for bear defense or defense against wildlife, or for SHTF, your SHTF firearms for the collapse of society, any kind of weapon that you plan to use to defend your life or defend other people's lives, you definitely want to practice with that at least once a month, in my opinion. Okay. Now, if we're talking about long guns, you could stretch that out to every 3 months. But if we're talking about pistols, pistols, in my opinion, are the most difficult firearm to shoot, and the thing with pistols is that you have to practice with them often in order to maintain your muscle memory and just to maintain the fundamentals of marksmanship, to make sure that you're executing all the 7 fundamentals of marksmanship properly. Pistols are the hardest to shoot properly. Even the most experienced shooters, they'll tell you that shooting a pistol is the hardest thing. So you want to practice with your pistol, in my opinion, at least once a month with your pistols. Okay, whether it's your CCW pistol, whether it's your bear defense pistol, whether it's your SHTF pistol. All right, or if you're a cop or a security guard, your duty pistol. You should be practicing once a month, in my opinion. All right, I shoot all of my pistols at least once a month. All right. Now, if we're talking about long guns that are going to be used for defensive purposes, like shotguns and rifles, you could stretch that out to once every 3 months. Because rifles and shotguns, they're a little bit easier to shoot. You don't need to steady the sights just with your hands. You have a shoulder that you can rest a stock onto, so that steadies the sights. Okay, so I think for shotguns and rifles, once every 3 months is fine. But ideally, in my opinion, the ideal scenario is to practice with all of your defensive firearms at least once a month. Okay, so you should be shooting your pistol once a month, you should be shooting your shotgun once a month, and you should be shooting your rifle once a month. Okay, whatever kind of rifle you have, whether it's an AR-15, an AR-10, a bolt-action rifle, whatever rifle you plan to use for defensive purposes, whether it's for SHTF or home defense or defense of your property, or if you're in an area with a lot of apex predators, you want to be very proficient with your weapons. So in my opinion, once a month is the ideal scenario. And once a month is really not that much. It sounds like a lot, but if you could, dedicate 1 day per month to take all of your main weapons with you to the range and just send a couple rounds downrange from each one of your weapons. And I've talked about in the past, I've done videos on what kind of weapons you should have for SHTF, and what should every citizen have in their home arsenal. I've done videos on that, but my recommendation is that you should have one rifle, one pistol, and one shotgun, okay? That's the absolute minimum. You should have one rifle, one pistol, and one shotgun that you plan to use for 90% of situations, okay? Does that mean that you can't have more than that? Of course you can have more, all right? But you should have at least, you should have one pistol, one shotgun, one rifle that you put most of your effort into. Because the thing is that if you have like 5 pistols, 5 rifles, and 5 shotguns, it's hard to really master all of those weapons, to really learn about the nuances of each single weapon, and to get the muscle memory down to understand the ballistics of each one. It's just way too much for the human mind to be able to remember all kinds of information on all those different weapons. So that's why I like to keep things simple, and I recommend to most preppers and to people that want to protect their families, one rifle, one pistol, and one shotgun. So if you have those 3 things, in my opinion, you should take them to the range at least once a month, if you can, especially the pistol. If you can't do that and you don't have the time, or you don't have many places close by where you can quickly pop in and shoot for a couple hours and get home fast, and you have to, let's say, make like a whole day or weekend trip out of it, then I suggest just doing your pistol once a month, and then your shotgun and your rifle or your long guns, you should do that at least once every 3 months, okay? There's a lot of guys that are preppers and a lot of guys that are hunters and sportsmen. For them, they just go to the range once a year, and they think that that's enough. Going to the range once a year, double checking their zero, shooting a couple of rounds, and then going home. I don't like that, because that's just not enough practice, in my opinion. For a hunting rifle, let's say if you're hunting deer or some kind of non-dangerous animal that's not going to likely charge you or attack you, then that's fine. Going to the range once a year with your 270 or 30-06, and just, hitting a couple of rounds and making sure your scope is sighted in properly, I think that's fine. But if you're hunting animals that can hunt you, or that can charge you, or that are dangerous when they're wounded, you need to practice more than that, So, but for the prepper, okay, if you're a prepper, in my opinion, your pistol, once a month you should hit the range, and your long guns once every 3 months would be the absolute minimum. And again, ideal scenario is practice with all your weapons once a month minimum, okay? Because I found personally that I shoot the best when I practice at least once a month, and the thing is that, a lot of guys, they get caught up with how many rounds they shoot, when they go to the range. They think that I got to shoot like thousands of rounds to practice, and I got to do like, 500 rounds. When I go to the range, I got to shoot like 500 rounds. Otherwise, it's not really practicing. And I feel like a lot of that is just bragging rights and ego. People just want to be able to brag to their friends that they went to the range and they shot 500 rounds, all right? But, the fact that you shot 500 rounds, it doesn't really impress me, okay? What did you actually do when you were at the range? What kind of drills did you do? What distances did you shoot at? What temperature conditions did you shoot in? What kind of gear were you wearing? Did you practice with gloves on? Did you practice with winter clothing on? Did you practice from the prone position, the kneeling position, standing? Did you practice transitioning, okay, from one weapon to another? What did you actually do, okay? Because that's more important than how many rounds you shoot, okay? It's just like, people that work out, and I'm going to use this as an example because I'm a former power lifter. And, I remember a lot of guys that were just getting new into powerlifting. The first thing that they would do is they would brag to me, they'd say, Greg, I just got back from the gym. I was there for 6 hours. I did every single machine in the gym. And then they wouldn't come back for like 3 weeks after that, And that doesn't impress me, okay? Anybody can do that. Anybody can send rounds down range and have no planning of what they're doing and not really being methodical about it. Anybody can do that, all right? But, what separates the men from the boys are the people that go to the range and they have something in their head. Before they went to the range, they had something in their head that they were thinking of doing, whether it's tweaking their scope, whether it's practicing more from a certain shooting position, whether it's trying different ammo and seeing how the point of impact changes from one type of ammo to another. And I'm going to do another video on that, but that's another thing you have to think about too, is if you buy ammo, you have to, test all your different ammo, see what the point of impact is, see which one groups the best. You can't just buy all kinds of ammo and expect it all to perform the same way. All right, there's different velocities, there's different powders that they use. Some powders are temperature sensitive, which could affect velocity based on temperature. The grouping could be different, okay, based on the jump to the lands inside of your chamber, okay? So you have to think about all these things. You can't just think that I'm going to buy a gun and I'm going to buy ammo and I'm just going to go to the range once a year and shoot a couple hundred rounds and I'm good. It's a whole, there's a whole science behind it, People dedicate their whole lives to marksmanship, to gunsmithing, to reloading, okay? So, you have to, when you go to the range, you have to have a plan, okay? What's your goal, all right? What are you going to do? What kind of drills are you going to do? What is your plan? Why are you going to the range? What is the objective? Okay, it's just like people that go to the gym, and I'm going to use that example again. They just start working out and they go to the gym and they don't know what to do because they don't know much about working out. They don't have enough experience. They haven't been working out long, so they don't know what exercises to do. They don't know what machines to try. They don't know how many reps to do. They don't know how heavy they should go. And so they kind of just like walk around the gym and they look like they're lost. They're kind of just like sampling different machines. They don't really know what they're doing. Okay, you don't want to be that person. Okay, when you go to the range, you want to have an objective that you're trying to accomplish. Okay, just like when you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, you have a plan. Okay, you're going to say, I'm going to do legs today, or I'm going to deadlift today, or I'm going to do pull-ups today. I'm going to do back or chest or bench or squat, Same thing with shooting. You got to have an objective. What's your plan, okay? Are you going to be testing different ammo? Are you going to run through some basic drills, okay? Now, what you should do, if you do the monthly training like I recommend for you guys, don't waste too much ammo at the range, okay? Just because I tell you guys that you should train every month or every 3 months with the long guns, doesn't mean that you need to shoot hundreds of rounds, okay? When I say training every month, I mean going to the range, being very deliberate and having specific things that you're going to do and not just blasting away ammo and wasting ammo and ruining your weapon, all right? Because, going back to the round count and how people brag about how many rounds they shoot when they're at the range, a lot of these guys, I always laugh at them because they brag to me, oh, Greg, I shot 1,000 rounds yesterday with my AR. And I always laugh because I know that they probably just reduced their barrel life by like 30%. Because chances are, if you shoot 1,000 rounds from a rifle in one afternoon, all right, the friction and the heat of the bore is extreme, okay? So you're wearing out your bore, you're wearing out your rifling inside of the barrel, you're wearing out the chamber, you're wearing out the throat of the chamber, okay? So going to the range and shooting hundreds and hundreds of rounds in one afternoon, all you're doing is you're just increasing the friction inside of your weapon and you're damaging your weapon, actually. You're reducing its life, okay? You're reducing It's how much accuracy you're going to get out of that weapon over a long period of time. All right. So that's why if you do the monthly training like I suggest, you should just go in, and I like to shoot maybe 20 to 50 rounds for each weapon. And that's it. That's all I do. Okay. So 20 to 50 rounds for my pistol, 20 to 50 rounds with my shotgun, and 20 to 50 rounds with my rifle. Okay. And if you add that up, it's not much. After a year, you may be shooting, if let's say you shoot 20 rounds of each weapon every month, you're shooting 200 rounds a year. Okay. And so that's really not much. All right. And, the big thing is that if you have a rifle, you have to let the rifle cool down between shooting strings. Okay. You can't just run your gun so hard, because you're going to burn the barrel out. And unless you want to continuously buy new barrels and go to a gunsmith and have them put the barrel on for you and spend hundreds of dollars every year or two to get a new barrel because you burn out your barrel from training too much, that's fine, but if I have a weapon for SHTF or for self-defense, I don't want to burn that weapon out and ruin it. Okay, I want to keep that weapon in good condition, and I want to practice just enough to familiarize myself with the weapon and maintain proficiency. But I don't want to overdo it and burn out the barrel, burn out the chamber, wear out the gun. There's no reason to do that, and that's what the law of diminishing returns is. Okay, it's just like working out. All right, if you go to the gym, and going back to the guy who worked out for 6 hours that bragged to me about, oh, Greg, I went to the gym for 6 hours. It's my New Year's resolution. And that's the law of diminishing returns. All right, it's just like with working out. Working out is the same way. All right, a lot of guys in the gym, they overdo it. They do too many exercises. They do too much volume. They do too many sets. All right. Shooting is the same thing. Okay. You can spend an hour in the gym and you can get much more out of it than if you spend 5 hours, because the most of the stimulus that you're putting on your body when you work out is like the first hour to 2 hours. After about an hour or two, your performance starts to go down and you enter a catabolic state, and your body starts to break down, and you introduce cortisol into your body. You suppress your testosterone. Your muscles start to scavenge. Your body starts to scavenge protein from your muscles. And it's the same thing with shooting. It's really the first 20 to 40 rounds that you shoot. And it's really actually the first round that you shoot that's the most important. And I think today, with all these tactical YouTube channels where you see guys that are doing all these drills, and they're shooting like hundreds and hundreds of rounds in one training session, chances are they're burning their barrels out. Okay, and maybe they have enough money to just buy a new AR. When they burn out their AR after training a couple of times, they just buy a new one. Okay, but for the average person who doesn't have thousands and thousands of dollars in disposable income to spend on weapons, you need to take care of your weapons and make sure that you're not wearing them out by training too much. Just like you can wear your body out, you can overtrain, just like with the gym, like I said. And it's the law of diminishing returns, so it's really just those first couple of shots that are the most important, because just like a self-defense scenario, it's really that first shot that's the most important shot. Okay, if somebody's about to pull a gun on you and you have a concealed weapon, all right, it's that first shot that you get is really the most important shot, right? Same thing with a bear attack. If the bear is charging you, it's your first shot that's going to save your life. If you miss that first shot, chances are you're going to get mauled. Same thing with a shooting on the street, okay? So don't burn out your guns. Don't, wear out your barrels. Don't shoot hundreds of rounds. Go to the range once a month. Do a couple of different drills. You don't have to shoot hundreds of rounds. You can shoot 20, 30, 40, 50 rounds, and that's enough. Okay, that should be more than enough to maintain proficiency, okay, in my opinion, for most people. All right, now if you're a beginner and you're new to shooting, you may have to shoot more. Okay, you may have to spend a little more time or if you buy a new weapon and you're familiarizing yourself with the weapon, you may have to spend more time initially at the range and shoot more, to familiarize yourself with it, to break in the barrel and things like that, and sight it in, and adjust your zero, your scope. So, but once you get proficient and you have everything zeroed, then you can just do the maintenance training, which for me, once a month, a couple of rounds. It's better to do it. I personally like to do it that way because I think of it like working out. If you train, let's say once a year, and you go to the range, let's say you spend like, a whole weekend at the range, you take a week off and you just shoot all week once a year. To me, that's actually worse than shooting a little bit every month, okay? Because it's like working out. You can go to the gym and spend 6 hours in the gym and then not come back 3 weeks. What did that do for you? It's better to go to the gym 1 hour every other day and maintain that consistency. And that's where you get the results. That's where your body adapts and things like that. And it's the same thing with shooting. The more frequently that you shoot, even though it's a lower volume and you're not shooting that much, but because you're doing it frequently, you're going to maintain your proficiency with your weapons. Okay, so that's my recommendation for you guys. For if you're a prepper, if you're a dangerous game hunter, if you have any weapons for self-defense, defense of human life, okay, concealed weapon, conceal carry, home defense, dangerous game hunting, any kind of weapon you carry in the woods for protection against animals, you should practice with those weapons at least once a month. And for long guns, you could stretch that out to once every 3 months. So that's my recommendation. And again, you can maintain the low volume. You don't have to go and shoot hundreds of rounds every single month. You definitely don't want to do that, okay? Because you're going to burn out your barrel. All right, most rifles, they only have a barrel life of a couple thousand rounds, okay? Especially as you get up into the Magnum rifles or the high velocity rifles like 30-06 and up, 300 Win Mag, 7mm, the Magnum cartridges, those typically have a barrel life of about 1,000 to 3,000 rounds. Okay, so if you're shooting, 500 rounds every single month, after about 4 or 5 months, you're going to need a new barrel because your grouping, your accuracy is going to be poor because the rifling and the chamber throat is going to be worn away from the friction. Okay. So now the good news is pistols are a little bit more resistant to barrel wear. All right, pistols can have as much as 10, 20, 30,000 rounds of barrel life, or even more than that, because pistol rounds, they don't generate as much friction. All right, but if, like for 9mm, 45 ACP, 40 Smith & Wesson, your typical service caliber, they're very low pressure, low velocity, so you're not creating the same amount of friction as a rifle, and because of that, you're not wearing out the barrel. So your pistol, you could shoot more than your rifle, okay? And now if you have a Magnum pistol, like a 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum, and on up to a 500 Magnum, you definitely want to treat those more like a rifle, okay? Because those are Magnum pistol calibers or cartridges, so they generate a lot more velocity and friction than a normal service caliber, okay? So you want to treat those like a rifle. But if you have a 9mm, you should get at least, a couple thousand rounds of barrel life. Many, much more than that, actually. You probably will get like 20, 30, 40,000 rounds of barrel life before it starts to affect accuracy. All right. But, with anything Magnum or any kind of rifle, you want to minimize the amount of rounds that you shoot. Okay. Shotguns, smoothbore shotguns, if you're just shooting buckshot, or if you're shooting standard pistol service calibers like 9mm, those you can shoot more often, and you can shoot them with more volume. Okay. You can shoot those with higher volume, but any rifle or any Magnum, anything with Magnum next to it, or any kind of high velocity rifle round, like even a 223, but especially going up to like a 270, 243, 25-06, 30-06, those fast, high velocity rifle calibers or cartridges. You want to keep those at a low round count when you go to the range and when you practice. Okay, you want to also let your barrel cool off between shot strings. Okay, so that's my recommendation for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.